amount is too big to pay for peace. A very sober Governor Wike-Fubara of Rivers State said these words to the people of Rivers State after what many are considering an unfortunate series of events leading to a truce that has many up in arms. No amount is too big to pay for peace. Are those the words of a brave soldier or a man ambushed into intimidation? Well, hello and welcome to Political Paradigm right here on Channels Television. I am Kayla Magwa. My guest on the program is Chief Peter Ameh, the National Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP. After weeks of political drama in Rivers State, President Tinubu on Monday met with Minister Wike, Governor Fubara, and other political players in Rivers State at the Aso Villa in Abuja. And a truce, well, many may disagree with the word truce, but an 8-point agreement was reached. All matters instituted in the courts by Fubara and his team are to be withdrawn immediately. All impeachment proceedings initiated against the governor by the Rivers State House of Assembly must be dropped immediately. The leadership of Martin must be recognized in the Rivers State House of Assembly and not that of Edison. Remunerations and benefits of the Rivers State House of Assembly members and staff will be reinstated immediately. Governor Fubara's led executive will henceforth no longer interfere with the funding of the Assembly. The lawmakers will from now on choose where to have their sittings without interference or a hindrance from the executive. Governor Fubara has agreed to represent the over 80 billion naira 2024 budget to the State Assembly with the defected members in attendance. He will also be resending the names of the commissioners who have resigned in the State Assembly for reappointment. And dissolution of local government administration has been declared null and void. Now, these resolutions have been described as unconstitutional, absurd, and obnoxious. Some going as far as saying that the laws of the land were broken here. Others say the governor has disappointed them, capitulating, betraying the trust the people had in him to stand his ground against ex-governor, now FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. My guest on the program is looking at it from a different angle, the party angle. He's wondering what's happened to the national leadership of the PDP, calling them complacent. For him, allowing the ruling party, APC, to intervene in and resolve PDP's internal crisis is compromising the opposition's efficacy. He goes on to ask INEC to reconduct fresh elections in Rivers State. Let's find out more from him. Mr. Peter Ameh, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start by quoting you directly. The People's Democratic Party appears to lack the necessary capacity, good intent, and commitment to safeguard the strength and integrity of the opposition.
But that's what I meant every word, in that the press release that I made. One, an opposition political party is not. It should not be on the same bed, every day discussing, the issues of his own internal affairs with the APC that is the ruling in power. That further weakens the opposition party. And if it weakens the opposition party, it affects the multi-party democratic system that we practice. Because what the opposition does is to hold those in government accountable, is to be proactive and have an internal mechanism of how to resolve its own dispute. To have a national working committee, to have national executive committee, and to have a national convention that is very effective. So if you see what has happened, the level of docility that the PDP leadership has applied to what is happening in Rivers, it breaks my heart because I'm a lover of multi-party democracy. I've preached it, I've acted in favor of it, and I think we should sustain it and keep it alive because without that, our democracy will not grow the way it should be because the role of the opposition and the role of those in government are totally different. Because we are supposed to be like the conscience of the people, to speak on behalf of the people, to be able to discuss issues that affect the people negatively on policies made by government that are not working in favor of the people. So when you now find out that, let's just give an example. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the current president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with due respect, was the governor of Lagos. How many times did he bring his matter to Obasanjo? Even interference of Obasanjo in the local government system administration of Lagos State, the current president went up to Supreme Court. So that's how people discuss issues. That's how opposition work. The opposition must be very proactive and very defensive of its authority to act within the constitutional framework of our country. So you now find out that a PDP is only acting. I think I saw their statement after this, my statement in the morning, that the president said, the national chairman said they are going to act against Nelson Wike for whatever anti-party activities that he's doing. No individual should be greater than a political party. A political party is an association that has a life of its own, an authority to self-succession, that can even exist without me or exist without the current national chairman. So you cannot now sleep and allow those authorities that has been granted to you from, whether from INEC monitoring unit, for INEC supervision of political party from section 221 to 209 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, and then you let it just go away. And then we have a crisis in the state. We have not seen a committee, a reconciliation committee from the PDP. We have not seen any committee that have stood their ground and said, no, this is our government. But I've seen their current statement, which I'm very impressed with. The statement that was issued by the national chairman yesterday said, look, and the state PDP said, this resolution cannot hold water because this is a completed process.
I mean, we're going to get to those resolutions in a bit because, there have been accusations that the Constitution was breached in many of these resolutions that were reached.
Of course.
So we're going to get to that in a bit. But I want to talk a bit about opposition in Nigeria, which is something that at least I've known you for many years. This is something that I know that you do. A coalition opposition, that is one of the conversations that has been going on. You belong to the CUPP.
Yeah, I belong to
but I know that you also belong to the coalition Coping, the one that was asked for by the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar.
That was a convener.
Yes, where he wanted he wanted all the different coalitions to come together. So let's talk about that dynamic a little bit. When it comes to opposition in Nigeria, should a coalition be the answer? Shouldn't different political parties or whatever coalitions you've made stand on their own? If all of you come together under one umbrella, who's going to be your candidate? Is everyone going to stand behind Atiku Abubakar if he comes out for president? What's really going on here?
I think that's where the consideration has to come from Atiku Abubakar himself, He has to understand that, Nigeria, this current Nigeria is driven by very young people and people who are tech-savvy, who understands, the importance of Nigeria getting it right, the importance of Nigeria doing what is right. And for coalition, a loose coalition is where you have coalitions like this. There's a merger and there's a coalition. For me, I think merger is more effective than coalition because when you have coalition, we've done coalition even in 2013, in 2019, when candidates at the end of the day, parties that have agreed and submitted a certificate of authority to the coalition, you end up finding seeing them filing for presidential election instead of them to just stay aside and allow the coalition to select a candidate. So all the time this one failed. But what the one that the Coping is looking at that I was sent by the national chairman to represent him at Dino's inaugural meeting was the fact that there's need for electoral, judicial, and whatever all the reforms that is necessary for us to have a credible, free and fair election in Nigeria. Because without that, we'll be building coalition in the air. And this coalition will not be able to sustain whatever kind of election that we have today. Election we have today is like an electoral process, war through the ballot box. Because you go to some places, you forget about cosmopolitan and metropolitan cities like Abuja and Lagos, you go to some certain communities, people are at harms. They are killing people to try to get results, to declare their candidate as winner. So we must try to get this thing right by making sure that these reforms come first. And when this reform comes and we succeed in putting this coalition of political parties who have the same interest to protect the sanctity of the ballot box together, and then call this Labour Party has considerable member in the National Assembly, PDP has the same, NNPP has some. So we put ABGA has. If you put all this together, there will be a forceful movement to be able to create and generate that reform that Nigerians truly deserve, where you can have election conducted and the election result to be transmitted from the polling unit electronically to the collation center.
I mean, it's all good and well when we're talking about reforms. What of candidates?
No, candidates, I think for now, I don't want to, because if you're starting a project of this magnitude, and you start to now want to now select candidates. Because I think if you look at 2023 election, people look at popularity. You look at how people accepted a candidate. You know that Obi has a lot of mass, support out there as we speak, from the Nigerian population. So if you put them then together and the public opinion is conducted, I think the coalition will not know where they will be heading to. But we can, in trying to build a coalition, throw away the interest of others, or just abandon the interest of everybody and say, no, this is where we are going to. That means you are putting everything, the answer is already there, so why are you trying to solve the equation? So what we should do is to accept that we need a strong and very opposition. We need an opposition that can hold this government accountable, because if we don't, they will continue to break law, they will continue to act with impunity, they will continue to think that there's no challenge coming from any other quarter, and for them, it's a free ride. And that's why we must protect the opposition. We must protect the Constitution. We must give respect, we must give foundation to the spirit and letter of the Constitution so that it can drive a democratic process that we respect the wishes and aspirations of our people, and then do a democratic process that will not allow anybody elected on the platform of whatever party, whether you are party A or party B, and then try to now, destroy the spirit and letters of our Constitution like it's been done with the case of Rivers State.
So let's go back to Rivers State. You did mention that the PDP have said that they would look into anti-party activities.
Yes, I saw the press statement.
Minister Wike for that. If you were national chairman of the PDP, what would you be doing right now? Would you be following the same line of action?
I think right now is a little bit late. If I was the national chairman of the PDP, from the first day that a member of my party, without our prompting, without our request, without our collective agreement, maybe like from the National Working Committee, because party has organs, and these organs are responsible to take certain decisions depending on how the magnitude of that decision. So if the NEC did not sit, WC did not sit, convention didn't sit, and then we found out that a very hierarchical members of our party has been put into a government that is not emanating from our own victory, a government like the APC and the PDP, the first thing I do is to set up a committee that will invite him and ask him why, what are the reasons for this, and why are you bringing the name of the party to distribute? Because you could see some of the things that were made about the PDP. You could see some of the actions that were. You could even see the BBC report of the elections of Rivers State. The report is there online. It's not something, and what happened to the elections, and how it was manipulated in favor of another candidate. So if we must get all this right as a party, from that moment, I'll set up a committee. And that committee, if the person, no matter how ranking, is found wanting of disrespecting the authority of the party, of trying to make sure that the party is brought to disrepute, of trying to make sure that the party's, the popularity and the chances that the party has with the Nigerian public is ridiculed, then the person will be put on suspension. Is
that how you see Minister Wike's actions? You feel he brought ridicule to the PDP?
There's nobody in Nigeria that does not see his actions against the PDP and see the PDP acting in a weak, acting as a weak link to our democratic connections.
Well, he made it look as though this is a national assignment. National assignments trump party affiliations, don't they?
From the way snake crawl, you see how it's going to end up. As we're speaking, before we knew it, to about 27, maybe 25 House of Assembly member Rivers decamped to APC. It's a systemic way of destroying the opposition party. I'm not a PDP member. I'm not saying because of PDP, but we have defended the multi-party democracy. We've even gone up to Supreme Court in cases that we felt that the people, because the multiplicity of parties and the opportunity to coalesce together give them the authority to bring more Nigerians to participate. Because the more this reduces, the more the space become very contract, and the more Nigerians don't have opportunity to participate. You now have a one-party system that will be so difficult for the ordinary man born in Yanya, or Massacre, or in Agwati, anywhere, to not participate in a political party and rise through the rank. It will be a state-controlled process of managing political activities and managing our democracy. So that's the reason why we feel that if the PDP, the issue at hand is affecting, then we should act with a very strong voice. And all the other statement, they should stop keeping quiet.
Well, we have heard a lot of them talking about, what's happened, Mr. Edwin Clark and a few other leaders.
I don't think he will say it's PDP at this stage.
Well, it's not about party, is it?
It's about Nigeria.
They're trying to talk about the country and governance and whatnot. But I want to get to the constitutional breach that you alleged in your statement, which I read a few days ago?
First of all, let's get this straight. Section 109, subsection 1G, I stated it clearly that when a lawmaker that is elected on the political party, a platform of one party, defect to another party, automatically that lawmaker loses his seat. And this is an action that had already been, carried out by the lawmakers now that the sitting president is asking that they should return back, they should be accepted, and they should start to act as lawmakers. It doesn't have the power. It's not. This is part of the law-breaking process. Whatever we had by Edison here, who was put into office by the legal means. There was a court order that stated that the rightful Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly is Edison here, and if he has been put there by that law, and then he has written a letter to INEC that the seat of those 25 people that they count has been vacated. It's a complete process. That process has been completed. For the president to now come and say that you accept them, what happens to the judicial pronouncement of the judge? So the president, on the altar of political consideration or the altar of political discussion, the order and judgment of our court will now be brought to nothing. Who is going to vacate that? If these people want to come back, and the party wants to help them, they are a new party now. They are a member of the president's party, and the president feels that he wants to help his member. He should go take the matter to Court of Appeal. Let Court of Appeal look, because this case is a decided case, even in 2015, of the matter of a member of the Labour Party, Ameh Gunde something, who defected to another ACN. And the Supreme Court clearly stated that as soon as he had become, your seat will be vacated.
I mean, it's a little shocking to me, that in trying to broker peace between the parties in Rivers State, that the president would break the law.
Maybe knowingly or unknowingly, but you could hear statements from everywhere. If he was doing it maybe for political interest, if he was doing it for national interest, whatever interest is doing it, he must also consider the legal status of whatever discussions he will have. Because he should have lawyers in that meeting. Because you can't wake up when the process is completed and you use political, authority to reduce the authority of the Constitution. The presidential villa is a creation of our Constitution. The president's seat is a creation of the Constitution. He is supposed to be somebody who will have the highest level of respect for a constituted authority. He's supposed to have the highest level of respect for every provision, the last detail of the provisions of the Constitution, and respect it. And that is to clearly state. Because when I first read one of the statements made by Femi Falana, which was very clear, I will never forget the heading, that those who defected did not have sound legal advice. And which is true. Because if you have sound legal advice, and you believe that you want to move Nigeria forward, you will stick by the law. You will respect the law. You will work within the law, because you are supposed to be a lawmaker that will make laws for the good governance and development within Rivers State that will affect the development of Nigeria at large, because Rivers is one of the biggest oil producing states in our country. So what I know is that there are several constitutional breaches that the president has done. The president is asking that they should return back. The budget should be represented. The budget was presented.
With those lawyers, with those lawmakers present.
With the lawmaker present. It's like a reversal of all the legal things that are taking place in Rivers. This boils down to the reason why we're saying we should have Ministry of Justice on its own and Attorney General of the Federation on its own, so that the president can have a lawyer who is the Minister of Justice with him that can be advising him on issues of this basis. It's not only, well, even people from the APC, you could read Fashola's statement when he says that, look, the president has no constitutional role in the issue that is happening both in Rivers and in Ondo. Because people asking people in Ondo, I'm sorry to move aside a little bit, to tell them that the deputy governor should not have, these are automatic provisions. They are not supposed to be, tailored through the whims and caprices of those who are in authority. They are not supposed to wake up and say, when the president wake up in good mood, our constitution should work in for the betterment of, and if he wakes up in bad mood, our constitution should go home and dry. It is his responsibility to protect this constitution. And in failure to doing that is undermining the principles that govern the, how they call it, constitutional democracy all over the world.
So what other breaches did you notice? You've mentioned two.
I've mentioned two. I've talked about, that he should present the budget. the 25 people should return back to
27.
their seat. 27 or 25, I think the figure is still not still balanced. They should return back to whatever they are doing. And then what about the section that talk about defection? 109 section 1G. That you have defected and your seat is already vacant. So that's the Constitution. It's not even an electoral. It's not a law that is made. It's the Constitution. It's the grand norm of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's where the matter is. They are defected. They are not hiding their defection. It's not something that you are saying that we are suspecting whether these lawmakers have left PDP to APC. No. They have said it publicly.
There's another agreement that was reached where the lawmakers are to choose where to have their sittings without interference or hindrance from the executive.
Will he allow that to happen in Lagos when he was governor? He wouldn't allow that. And
then there's the issue of funding.
The issue of funding, I've written extensively over that. That the governor should not even interfere in the funding of state assemblies at all. They don't have anything. They should have their own direct land charge, where they have their money. But the issue is saying, the kind of funding he's talking about that will also amount to the breach of the Constitution is the funding that those who have been removed should also be paid. They don't deserve any payment as we speak because they are no longer members of the State House of Assembly. That's where his own funding comes. The current speaker that is recognized by the court and that has received the budget from the president, the governor, Wike-Fubara, and that has sat for this while, is not complaining of funding. The people complain of funding are the people who are left to another party and say they are not paying them their entitlement. You don't deserve an entitlement when you are no longer members of the State House of Assembly.
And then, of course, there is the leadership of Martin Ameh to be recognized, and not that of Edison Eye.
That's the first point where we shouldn't even go there at all. If we go that route, if the governor allows that to happen, I don't think he will have anywhere to take shelter.
Let's actually even talk about the players in this whole scenario.
Okay.
Many people have been criticizing Governor Fubara, at least since this situation. Many people, they felt like he was bullied into this. He's not someone who can stand his ground. And we heard him, with us, how we started the program, where he said there is no price too big to pay for peace. One gets the feeling that he may have to pay a lot of prices for the peace that he's searching for in that state. What do you make of, the criticisms against him for allowing this to happen?
I read the either statement, the Clark statement, who said that if the president meant well, the sitting president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, meant well, he would have allowed Edison Ehia, the current speaker, and the governor and his own team to come for that meeting. Because Martin was in the meeting. He's an APC member, and his members were there. The NSA was there. The president was there. The vice president was sitting there. They are all APC members. So how many of this team did he come with? So the speaker, the other person who is claiming, if you want to come to equity, you must come with clean hands. And if you want fair play, you must be able to accommodate more people who are part of the crisis or part of the crisis you claim exists. So why is the other speaker not there? I read the Chief Edward Clark statement, and it's a very, very important question that we must ask. That His Excellency was brought to the presidential villa, and in his statement, I'm bullied to sign those. I'm bullied to be part of those agreements. But I don't accept that. For me, what I want to say about the governor's statement is that it is not within his teaching to say a peace. We're not happy. Whatever he wants to do with his life in Nigeria, everybody have that authority. Constitution has guaranteed that. But the fact that you cannot say the price to pay for peace is to abuse our Constitution. That nobody gave him that right.
What should he have done differently?
What they should have done differently is to allow the rule of law and the constitutionality of what is on ground to be given the necessary life to exist and continue to exist until set aside.
He's probably looking at the fact that there's no way for me to govern this state with this problem that I'm facing. You're not together with your state assembly. You're dealing with Wike in Abuja, and all of these things. Governance in itself in the state would diminish, don't you think?
It would diminish in what sense? His budget has been passed. He has had a budget passed.
People are resigning. The people that are supposed to
implement
this budget.
In fact, another thing is that I think the forceful nature of this agreement is even heartbreaking.
You're talking about the commissioners,
yes, I'm a governor of a state. You resign willingly. Then you are asking me again to represent their name. What sense of disloyalty is that? There's no governor that I know today will take that, including the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And whether anybody like it or not, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president, and there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm telling you, he won't take that.
Okay. Give me a modus operandi. What should he have done? What should the governor have done in this situation?
The governor would have, I think the issue is that a lot of people are so much afraid of, because we really don't practice democracy. We have a state capture in process. We have a system that allows those who are in government to have so much power to manipulate the process. So manipulate the system. So maybe the governor is afraid of something that I don't know about, but apart from that, if not for, maybe he's afraid of something. What he should have done was to tell the president, oh, thank you so much, as another statement, statement, maybe you have interest of peace in our country, and Nigeria, River State is part of the state you govern as a president, but this thing is before the court of competent jurisdiction, and if we can set it aside, that you are willing to obey the law. Because it's about the law. You can't allow people to continue to abuse our constitution. What they are doing is not good for our constitution. That's how the local government system started, when governors started taking local government money.
Peter, if it's that easy, why do you think he didn't do it?
That I can't know. I don't want to read his mind, but I know that he has no power, he has no any authority to slaughter our constitution on the table of political constitution.
Is there a court judgment coming next year that he may be looking at?
Yes, they say all the governors here, most of the governors here have their cases in the Supreme Court. If that is why, I don't think he has won his case at the Federal High Court and at the Court of Appeal, and these are very...
It's a Supreme Court judgment next year.
Yes, by January. I think most of the cases will end by January for the governors.
Could it be that maybe...
I talk about...
Maybe this is why...
There's a state capture in our country. People are pretending. When people take power, they control a lot of things. They tamper with the judiciary. They tamper with the state assemblies. They tamper with the National Assembly. And we have spineless bootlickers within this borderline that continue to encourage this kind of act to happen. And this act continue to undermine our constitution and continue to undermine the principle of separation of power. And if we don't get this right, because as a federating unit, you make up what is the largest unit of the Nigerian society. So you must be able also to be seen as your own carve-out area that you are commander-in-chief.
So let's look at another player in this scenario, which is Nyesom Wike. What's the end game here? What's really going on? Because it feels like a lot of turmoil, and many Nigerians are probably looking at this and thinking, okay, wait, you brought this man. What's the end game? What do you want? What do you think is going on?
I've heard him say publicly that nobody bought form. Nobody bought this, he bought form for all the members of the House of Assembly, or the governor, he bought his form. Anybody you can do charity. But at the end of the day...
There is no such thing as charity in politics.
No, you can do charity. Whatever that is not constitutional, whatever is not recognized by law, you push it to the NGO side. You push it to the non-profit area. Because at the end of the day, we run a constitutional democracy. We're on an electoral democratic process that people must get elected. Then if you say that you put him there, you are trying to tell us that there was no election.
Yes.
And if there
which really is the first domino.
Yes, and if you say...
The concept of godfatherism, remember, our population is changing. The Nigerian population is predominantly young now. So there are so many terms that really rub Nigerians the wrong way. I put him in. Really? So my vote didn't count.
Didn't count. That's what you're saying.
There was no election. What if I didn't want him? Are you saying I didn't have a chance? But that's a conversation for another day. But, that's usually where the first problem is. And we've seen this happen before. I remember very clearly Ganduje and Kwankwaso. Remember that situation?
Very clearly.
Why do these things end up poorly, you think?
I think in their arrogance and their patience for undermining constitutional, democracy, they have come to become so comfortable, thinking that they can, do whatever they like, subdue whoever they put there, and then run government from outside as proxies.
Explain this to me. I ruled a place for 8 years. I'm trying to be as reasonable as possible with this conversation. I ruled the place for 8 years. It's time for me to go. Okay, I decided to put a successor. You can have favorites, which undermines the electoral process.
It undermines democracy too.
However, whatever happens, I've put someone I like there. Why do I still want to be there? Which means that you really don't want to leave. You still want to be ruling by proxy.
By proxy, that's what I said.
Isn't that a problem
if we
that should be addressed in the first place?
I do not want to bring rumor to national television. That's why I'm trying to, avoid certain things. When people say, oh, they say don't use private jets, don't come to Abuja. No, these are the things we hear on the street of Nigeria. But these are rumors.
I mean, we've heard all of them, and they are very disappointing.
They are very disappointing, but people don't learn from history. There's nobody, even the current president today, I've had a situation with Fashola when he was governor of Lagos State for many months. People had to intervene. Leaders had to come. But I'll give him one thing. He never ran to Abuja to meet Obasanjo and say, please help me, or Yaradua, please help me with my state governor. They were able to sit down in their party and resolve the issues. But what we are saying is that there's no need, even not for greed. If not because people now they have become so arrogant with authority that was, donated to them by the common good people of Nigeria. There's no need for you to try to force any other person in power. And this starts from the internal democratic process of political parties. You establish a free and fair process for primaries. Whoever wins in that primaries is an indigene of the state. You are not going to bring anybody from anywhere.
I mean, I was trying to get you to talk about, Wike's part in all of this.
That's what I'm coming to. It's a strongman political tactics that is causing all this.
Strongman political tactics.
Yes, in the sense that I nominated you, and in their own inner mind and conclusion, I nominated you, I got you elected, I put you into office, and in most cases, some of the old politicians will say, I rigged the election for you, I made you a governor, and then today you want to challenge me. That's what they do. It happened. My principal, my former in how they call it, Abia, he with his governor, Theodoji, Ajuzukalo, they parted ways. Kwankwaso, they parted ways. We can name up to how many of them that never worked. So why are people trying to practice what has not been, a way that you can sustain? Why not allow the free will of the people from the primaries of the political party level down to the general election to determine who governs each of the states? And then if you have done something, Jack Onde today, we are singing Jack Onde in Lagos. He's late. He was a journalist. He came into government. He changed the government in Lagos State, made private schools, made them public schools for people to attend. I attended the Igbobi College. I know it would not be possible without Jack Onde policies. So what we are saying eventually is that those who are forcing people on us are actually undermining our democracy. And if you now know, like for Rivers State governor, that he has won election, you are very sure that he has won election. Why not allow him govern with his own policies, with his own ideas?
And be proud of him.
And be proud of him that I was part of this process. And then see whether if he fails, you say, no, you should have done this like this. Something that will be very soft. Not something that you want to stay and say, no, this government, you must listen to me.
I mean, I heard somebody talk about, Mr. Nyesom Wike recently, and the person was talking about how this whole scenario, this whole situation could undermine his legacy.
Is there still legacy for most politicians when they leave office? The legacy should be
so sad.
The legacy should be about something that future generations will come and then smile at.
Oh yes.
But when you people I'm a politician.
I mean, I'm sorry to cut you. I grew up in the North, and I remember thinking Saminu Kano was someone we aspired to be. I don't know much about the South, but Saminu Kano was someone that a lot of us aspired to be. In Kwankwaso that we're looking at is a product of the teachings of Saminu Kano.
But it failed.
It was important, at least when we were kids, to look at people and their legacies and try to best them at their legacies. This doesn't happen anymore.
The legacy of selfless service to our people.
Oh, yes.
That is the kind of legacy that politicians and those who get into office should look at. They should not be looking at legacy of sustaining themselves in power even after their tenure has expired.
Maybe we don't care as a people, Peter. Is it possible that they can do this and get away with it? Because Nigerians will forget. No matter who you are. Once you were in office, once you leave, people praise you.
Nigeria has what they call the shortest attention span on any issue. As soon as the issue, everybody, you make noise today, tomorrow Nigerians move on. And, Amechi has said that, Chibika Amechi has said that. It could be funny to a lot of people, but it's true. Nigerians don't care. Nigerians are very docile people. They are very contented people. Even in suffering, they are smiling. Even in pain, they are willing to still obey government. But in a civil society, in a society driven by people who know what to do on how to call, because opposition is not only left for government, for political parties alone. The citizens also have to play a major part in the process. And that's why you go to places like America, you go to places like Canada, people are protesting over the right of dogs. If you call for protest here, they are telling you, no, come and give us something before we go and protest with you. They need to understand that if we don't collectively sit down and fight for good governance, it will never come free will. The politicians that have been in power have enriched themselves, have promoted, self-interest above collective good, and they are not doing anything, I can see. And because of the people are sleeping. Because there's nowhere in the world, let me tell you, that the kind of thing happening in rivers today, that people will be relaxed and be complacent and say, no, they will be docile and look, whatever they want, make them do. And then they forget.
That brings me to the third set of players in this scenario, the people of Rivers State.
I've seen the elders. I've seen Bricks. I've seen her act. I've seen a lot of them talked, about how Rivers State should be left for Rivers people, and how the president must be careful in playing any kind of negative game that will undermine the peace and democracy that is enjoyed by Rivers State people. And it's a very good point, because I think the president is getting involved in too many politics. Nigeria is bedeviled by a lot of economic issues. People are suffering, and there's so much poverty in the land. I don't think any president who has time to want to make Nigeria work will have time to be hosting meetings from Edo political crisis, Ondo political crisis, and Rivers. You won't have that time, because there are too many things to be done. There's no cash in the public. People don't have, how they call it, can't eat 3 square meals comfortably. People, the economy is the inflation level and every other thing. So we must have a president that will sit on the table and be working the economy of this country with his team. We don't kind of continue to play too many politics and leaving the governance and development of this country, lying fallow. Because as much as the National Assembly too has their own fault, which they are supposed to sit down, make laws for the good governance and development of our country, and they're also involved in all of these politics, it's heartbreaking and disheartening. So if this country should work, must work, it must be the citizen advocacy, more citizen action on advocacy, against policies of government that are negative and policies of government that need adjustment, and then the political party on their own part, holding those who have been elected on their platform. The political parties are afraid. Most of them who are in the opposition are afraid, because they feel that there's nothing that protects them. For instance, I'll give you an example. There's the time in PPA where a query was given to a governor of Theodore of Abia, and he said, who are these people who are giving me query? And he left the party. So, the party system is also weak in the process. And the law that is actually working against the State House of Assembly and the National Assembly from not defecting from their platform does not hold the governor is not effective against the governor. Because what happened within David Umahi of Ebonyi State when he defected, that also law was brought, and he went up to Supreme Court and defeated the law, because that law does not talk about the executive arm of government in the state. So if we want a country that works, people cannot donate their votes to you based on the policies, programs, and manifesto of the party that you brought before them, and then you leave to another party that they rejected to vote you. So to get all this right, Nigeria must wake up, first of all. And we must also find a way to hold the Independent National Electoral Commission to order. And that's where all this problem is, because a letter has been written since. INEC is supposed to have set a date for
I want to get to that, actually, because I know that one of the things you're asking for is for another set of elections.
Yes, another election. That's where we are right now. Because this is a very short
governorship
story.
Or?
No.
For the 27 lawmakers.
Yes, because other parties have to participate. They are already, aspirants are already running around in other parties, willing to participate with that opportunity. When you declare that vacant, based on the law and the authority that...
that means I have a chance.
Yes.
I should be allowed to contest,
run.
Yes.
So it has been declared vacant. What the next action is for INEC to now set a date for that election.
But with the reversal that has been done with this truce that has been agreed on,
cannot turn the authority of our constitution
so should the people who want that seat, those seats in Rivers,
they should go and
should they be complaining to the courts right now?
They should go and try and vacate the order that made the Edison here the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, and that they have to go to Court of Appeal, because you can't be using the same court of coordinate jurisdiction, court that have the same level of authority to overturn one other judgment. So you go to Court of Appeal, or you go to the same court if it's another, you try to vacate it. And when you vacate it, you now start to say, well, since this order has been vacated, Edison is not Speaker, I'm Speaker, and we should come back. That's a process. And that's the beauty of democracy. If you allow democracy to walk through that process, people will learn more, people will respect the Constitution more, people have value for our law. And then nobody will be going about breaking the law as if we will run to the president and the president will overturn constitutionality, in favor of political discussions and considerations. So our democracy is very weak.
So it was a poor arbitration process.
No, it was unnecessary for the president to participate.
The president did not do well in this one.
It was unnecessary for him to participate, the kind of time he has in his hand to be participating in this thing.
Oh, his minister must have come and spoken to him. And he is president of Fubara as well. If they had to come to the president and say, look, we're not seeing a solution.
It was not elected as dispute resolution for internal affairs of political parties. The political parties have mechanisms of how to resolve their issues. That's what the reason it was elected. And when you establish a political party, you bring a constitution to an association constitution to INEC. INEC will review that constitution and see whether you have met the necessary guidelines and requirements to be registered as a political party. And as soon as you are registered as a political party, because of the kind of constitution, authority, constitution has given to INEC, that party now become an entity. And in that constitution, there are ways to resolve internal disputes of political party. They are not inter-party crises. They are, first of all, intra-party issues.
So what next? What do you think should happen next?
What should happen next? For me, I think the governor should defend the right freely given to him by the people of Rivers State.
Someone told him to resign. Don't stand your ground.
Why do you resign?
I will not be bullied. Let me go.
If he allows himself to be bullied, it will affect his own future generation, because nobody's going to have confidence in his own offspring. So he has to be a man. When he said in the statement, one of the statements, that I'm willing to sacrifice myself, that's the kind of the position he should hold.
Yeah, but now he's saying there's no price that is too big to pay for peace.
He can do peace on anything. He can settle his friendship with his master. He can settle his relationship with the president. But he cannot use that political consideration to undermine our constitution and our judicial process. He can't do that. That should not be allowed by anybody, any well-meaning Nigerian.
So stand his ground how? What should he be doing right now?
And follow the status quo that has been established by law.
Okay, say, these agreements by the president, no. Let's focus on what we've done and focus on our state.
If it was reverse of before, I thank God that the people who are actually having more Nigeria at heart. The president is just pouring petrol in a already burning bush. You don't need all these things. It's like you are taking side, because there's no decision that was taken in that agreement that did not favor the APC people that defected. There's no decision. Read it. Which one was for the governor? Which one favored the Edison here? It was not we invited to the meeting. So there was no decision that was taken there that was not in favor of the APC. So we're not talking about you look at it from the lens of the Nigerian.
I want to actually read something someone said about the president and his arbitration here. President Tinubu sees his role as mediator to once again show gratitude to the current Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, for delivering Rivers State to him during the past presidential election, having first gratified him by making him the Minister of the FCT.
That gratification that they are doing with our democracy and the constitution of our country.
Do you agree?
He has done that.
Because this was from Edwin Clark.
That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. But that gratification that he's doing, if I was even the president, I will in my private time, look at the result of Rivers State. I will tell them to download everything from the IRF and look at the result. If Rivers State was really delivered. And I'll come to my own conclusion on how to build a stronger political structure that can help me with Rivers State. It's not by depending on an already structure that belongs to another political party. Because all these things are about, if you see the fight from everywhere, from Kanu to Rivers, it's about 2027. Nigerian politicians don't learn. They are finished. They are ending with one election. They started campaigning into the election and doing strategy to the next election 4 years ahead of time. What time do we have for governance? So for all this, the president should not consider himself as the chief arbitrator for issues that are affecting internal system of a party, when the party itself has a way to resolve that issue. I could blame PDP. PDP didn't act swiftly. PDP failed to nip this problem in the bud from day one. Even from the time of the general election, PDP should have acted like a party with authority. PDP should have stood and said, look, as far as you're campaigning against our party, this is the provisions of our constitution that will not allow such an anti-party activity to hold, and this is our decision. You give it out.
It's shocking, the statement that you just made right now about the PDP. The PDP has been considered by many Nigerians as the major opposition to the All Progressives Congress. Of course, with the 2023 general elections, we saw the emergence of the Labour Party as well. But we've seen internal issues there, and we're still trying to understand what's going on there. Is this a Peter Obi movement or a Labour Party movement? We're still trying to understand what's going on there. Does the All Progressives Congress have a viable opposition in Nigeria, in your view?
I think the greatest opposition that the All Progressive Congress saw in 2023 was the movement of the Nigerian people, with the intention to have good governance. And they saw a person that they could donate their authority to, somebody that has integrity, that they felt has capacity. And that's why you saw the movement in Nigeria. From 1999, nobody has won the presidential election in Lagos. PDP, Labour Party, within 6 months, on the movement of Peter Obi, won Lagos. Even Labour Party won Nasarawa. So there are a lot of things. And our FCT, the seat of government, where all ministers, all the parastatals, staff of those people who are benefiting from government, even voted against the government that was sitting here. So the issue is about the people. And for any democracy to survive, for any opposition to be very strong, the people must hold both the opposition accountable and also hold the ruling party. Because the people play two ways. If the opposition is not going well, they caution them and tell them what to do, and tell them, if you do this, we'll continue with this bad government. If the government is not going well, we are warning you, we are not going to vote for you. And the only thing that can guarantee this is when we have free, fair, and credible elections. If we don't have free, fair, and credible elections, and you have the kind of elections that we're having in even the off-cycle election we just had recently, where people can bring 150,000, 140-something thousand votes from a local government, you can't have a governance that will be responsible to the people. Because when I feel that I can re-elect myself by writing results, why do I have to respect the people? That means every 4 years I write another result. And then I will not have to overuse the public money entrusted under my care judiciously. Because what are they going to do? The only power the people have is not to re-elect me. And I'm going to have the authority to re-elect myself by rewriting results. So why do I have to respect them? So these are all the challenges we have. And the people in government today, the All Progressive Congress, they are not willing to change that. They are willing to sustain that status quo. They are willing to undermine anything they need to do to make sure that the elections are declared in their favor. And you could, from Kogi election to Imo, there are test signs of these things everywhere. So if we sit down and as citizens that have been given the constitutional authority from Section 3940 for freedom of movement, freedom of expression, and freedom of association, and we let all this happen, and we don't defend the Constitution because we feel our people are not in government, or bring nepotism, or bring, how they call it, tribalism into when we should defend the Constitution, then we all suffer for it. So for me, despite what we've seen so far, we need to stand up as a people. We need to collectively demand good governance from those in government. We need to demand a strong opposition for those outside government who are government in waiting, and make sure they act in line with what they should do, in line with the principles of the Constitution and the Constitution of their own party. Because you cannot be disrespecting with the Constitution of your party. That means you have no respect for the manifesto and the Constitution of your party, and you are still a member of that party. It's also an agreement that you agree, because you are free to belong to an association or a political party where your interest is protected. And if your interest is already protected, where you have done local government chairman, you have done governor, you have done minister, and you are doing minister again, and you cannot respect such party. Who else we should respect the party? A man who has never benefited from the party? A man who have never had even a councillor position be given to him. So we shouldn't have strong men running parties. We should have strong political party, monitoring the activities and actions of those who claim to be strong men.
That actually brings me to my final question to you. It has to do about you and politics. What political party do you belong to right now?
I belong to Labour Party.
Oh, you belong to the Labour Party.
Yes.
But you're part of a lot of the coalitions, CUPP. The other one.
The CUPP is about ADC.
You used to be in IPAC.
I was former National Secretary General of Interparty Advisory Council. Former National Chairman of Interparty Advisory Council.
Do you have political ambitions of your own? Are you trying to run for any office?
We keep on fighting for I've run for office, and I know how ugly it is. It is about war through the ballot, because you come to the elections that I ran for House of Reps in my Ameh Federal constituency. I was at the Collation Center and I saw guns everywhere. In fact, I went to the DPO. I said, look, these people are carrying guns in their vehicle. He went to them. I was standing behind him. He was telling them, this Oga don't see a gun. When I come on the motor here. I say it. I have witnesses. So this is not the kind of democracy we should run, where people will use gun. They will use all kind of autocracy to manipulate an electoral system. Yes, and that's why I now see that the sole responsibility I should have now is not even to run for office. It's to work with other like-minded Nigerians and work with people who are interested in making sure that we have a transparent process. People who are interested that INEC must be responsible and INEC must respect its own rules, because INEC made rules and guidelines for the conduct of the elections 2022 recommendations. In their own recommendation from 46, clause 46, 47, A, B, and C, and clause 93, they have stated clearly that elections will be transmitted, and they violated that promise. In the middle of the game, when Nigerians were already voting, and in all the judgment you see, it's only one judge that has said INEC is dancing naked in public, that everybody see what INEC is doing, and nobody wants to say anything. You cannot have a government in place that will respect the authority, the constitution, the people, if they are elected by their own authority, not the authority of the people. So INEC must be ready to know the only way thuggery can stop, the only way manipulation of elections can stop, is when elections are transmitted directly from the polling unit to the IRF.
In the reforms that you're seeking, are you going to ensure that that is done in 2027?
That is what we are pushing. It's very important. If it's not done, I think the opposition must be very willing to boycott the elections. They must be willing to stand and even march to the National Assembly. That
would involve some kind of review of INEC's laws, because
INEC is always reviewing. They're not going to use this electoral the guidelines today. They are going to use some of the judgment and review it. But because the guidelines...
So one of the reviews that you're seeking for is that transmission of results straight to the IREV has to be a criteria for
in the Electoral Act, not with the guidelines of INEC.
You want it in the Electoral Act.
And it should not be at the discretion of INEC. Because the problem we're having in this one, they are saying it's at the discretion of INEC. INEC will determine what to use.
If this doesn't work,
in their own guidelines, they say that even when there's an electronically transmitted result, and there's a contradiction, the electronically transmitted result will supersede from the paper hard copy. But they didn't value that. You could even see in Ogori Magongo, results were ready, even uploaded before election started. And the people who have done that, INEC even raised a statement after complaint from political parties. INEC made a statement publicly saying that they will look at that. But INEC still went ahead to announce that result. In the Electoral Act, INEC was given a judicial, a quasi-authority to review election within 7 days. INEC had never used that thing to help the growth of our democracy. So for me, what I know as an opposition person who believes that our democracy should work for our people, what we should do is to review the current electoral process and also audit INEC. There must be public audit for INEC. Let's know where the server is. Let's know the nature of the kind of glitches they have had. Let's also know how many of the cadre, how they call it, the beavers that is still on ground. Because without INEC being audited, INEC remains an organization that is not accountable to the Nigerian people.
Well, Chief Peter Ameh, I want to thank you very much for making out the time to speak with us. There's a lot to talk about. Thank you so much for all the work that you do, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you. I see all you do too. In Nigeria, work for our people.
Amen. We have been speaking with Chief Peter Ameh, the National Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP. And that's where we wrap it up on Political Paradigm this week, and indeed this year. From the entire Political Paradigm team, we wish you all a fantastic Christmas season, and we will see you again in the new year. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.